My name is Heather, and I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I am not a dramatic person. I don't do conflict. I was raised to handle things quietly. You fix the problem, you don't talk about the problem, and you definitely don't make a scene about the problem. So when my younger sister moved into the house I bought for our mom, the house with my name on the deed, my name on the mortgage, my paycheck covering every single bill, and started telling the neighbors it was hers, I didn't make a scene. I watched. I watched for 3 years. And then one Tuesday night, I came home from a 12-hour shift and found a Zillow listing on my kitchen counter with her phone number on it. My house, my kitchen counter, her phone number. And that is the night Heather stopped watching and Heather started acting. My mom's house is on Maple Ridge Lane in Cascade, Michigan. That's a suburb just outside Grand Rapids. It's a 3-bedroom Cape Cod with a 1-car garage and peony beds that my mom has been tending since 1998. Those peonies are older than some of you watching this. Every June they bloom pink and white, and my mom cuts them and puts them in a vase on the kitchen table, and she says, "Look at that. 26 years and they still show up." And they do, every year. They show up for her. My mom is 71. She worked the checkout at the Meijer on 28th Street for 25 years. 25 years of scanning other people's groceries, bagging other people's dinners, standing on a concrete floor for 8 hours so she could come home to a house that was hers. That was the deal she made with herself. The job was the job. The house was the point. Then 2020 happened. The Meijer cut her hours. Then they moved her to part-time. Then they offered her a buyout package that was supposed to sound generous and sounded like a door closing. Mom called me and she said, and I can hear her voice exactly, she said, "Heather, I'm getting notices in the mail, the ones with the past due stamps." Past due stamps, that's what she called them, like the stamp itself was the problem, not what was underneath it. I was 35. I was a home health aide making $17.50 an hour. I didn't have savings, not real savings. I had a 401k from the hospital with about $9,800 in it. And I had good credit because I have never missed a payment in my life, not one. My dad told me before he passed, he said, "Heather, your credit score is your reputation on paper. Guard it." And I did. I guarded it like it was the only thing I had that proved I was who I said I was. I went to the bank in January of 2021. I talked to a loan officer named Patty at the Lake Michigan Credit Union on Cascade Road. I showed her my income, my credit, my mom's house. And Patty looked at me and she said, "Hun, you can't afford this on what you make." And I said, "I know, but my mom can't afford to lose it on what she doesn't make. So let's figure it out." And Patty, I owe Patty a lot, she found a first-time homebuyer program through Kent County that covered the down payment, and she structured the mortgage at 4.1%, and she told me this is going to be tight, really tight. And I said, "I know, tight is the only way I know how to do things." I closed on my mom's house on March 3rd, 2021. The deed has one name on it, Heather Marie Gibson. Mine. I didn't put my mom's name on it because the bank needed my income and my credit and my signature. I didn't put Chelsea's name on it because Chelsea didn't have income or credit or a signature that meant anything to a bank. It was just me. The mortgage was $1,189 a month. The property taxes were $1,950 a year, the insurance was $1,620, and I paid all of it, every month, every year, every dollar, on $17.50 an hour. You can do the math, it wasn't pretty. But Mom kept her house, and the peonies kept blooming. And that was the whole point. Before I keep going, I need to ask something. Has anyone in your family ever started treating something you own like it belongs to them? Because that's what this story is about. Not a stranger, not a thief in the night, your own sister, sitting in your living room, putting her name on your mailbox, and you standing there wondering if you're the crazy one for noticing. Drop your state below. Let me know I'm not talking to nobody. Chelsea is my younger sister. She's 33, 2 years younger than me. And Chelsea has always had a situation. There's always a reason she can't, a reason she needs, a reason things didn't work out, and every single reason is someone else's fault. That's Chelsea. That has always been Chelsea. In 2022, Chelsea called me on a Thursday night. She was crying. She said her boyfriend, a guy named Brian, had asked her to move out of his apartment. She said she had nowhere to go. She said, "Heather, just for a couple months, I swear, I'll get on my feet and I'll be out." And I said yes, because she's my sister and because Mom was still living in the house, and I thought, well, Chelsea can help keep an eye on Mom. I thought that. I really thought that. Chelsea moved in with 2 duffel bags and a shower caddy in June of 2022. By August, she had rearranged Mom's living room furniture. By October, she had bought a new area rug, on her credit card, not paid off, and put it in the family room. By December, she had invited 4 of her friends over for a birthday party in the backyard, and when I pulled into the driveway, 2 of them were standing in Mom's peony beds. And I said, "Chelsea, those are Mom's peonies." And Chelsea said, "Heather, relax, they're just flowers." Just flowers. My mom has been tending those peony beds since 1998, since before Chelsea could drive a car. Just flowers? In 2023, things shifted. Chelsea started receiving mail at the house. Not care of mail, mail with her name and the Maple Ridge Lane address, like she owned the place, which she didn't. Living somewhere and owning somewhere are not the same thing. And then one day I came by to check on Mom, and the mailbox had a new nameplate. Chelsea's name. Just Chelsea's. Not Mom's, not mine. Chelsea's. On the mailbox of the house I pay the mortgage on. And when I said, "Chelsea, why is your name on the mailbox?" she said, "Because I live here, Heather. The mail carrier needs to know who lives here." And I said, "The mail carrier needs to know who owns here, and that's me." And she said, and I want you to hear this exactly, she said, "It's Mom's house. It belongs to the family. Stop acting like you're the property manager." I am the property manager. I have the deed to prove it. But I didn't say that. I looked at that mailbox and I went very, very quiet, because I had learned something by then, something that took me too long to learn. When your family starts treating what you own like it's theirs, the conversation is already over. You're just standing in the echo of a decision they already made. And that decision is, what's yours is ours, and what's ours is ours, and what's mine is mine. 2024. Chelsea had been in the house for almost 2 years. 2 years! A couple months had become a couple years, the way a couple months always does when someone is living rent-free in a place they don't pay for. Time doesn't work the same when you're not paying for it. Time slows down because nothing is pulling you forward. You just exist there. And Chelsea existed there. Here's what Chelsea did in 2024. She repainted the kitchen. Without asking me. Without asking Mom. She went to Home Depot on a Saturday and she bought paint. A pale sage green, which honestly looked nice, but that's not the point. And she painted the kitchen walls and the cabinets and she posted it on Instagram. She posted it with the caption, "Home renovation vibes, house sparkles in my house, the house I pay for." She posted it like she was on an HGTV show. She replaced the kitchen faucet. She replaced the bathroom mirror. She put a wreath on the front door that said, "Welcome to the Gibson home." Gibson, our last name, like she was the lady of the house. She was a guest, a long-term guest who had started acting like she owned the place. And the neighbors. That's what got me. The neighbors on Maple Ridge Lane started calling Chelsea when something happened. A pipe burst in January. The neighbors called Chelsea. A tree branch fell on the garage roof in February. The neighbors called Chelsea. Because Chelsea had told them, she had actually told them, "I'm the one who handles things around here." Handles things. She doesn't pay the mortgage, she doesn't pay the taxes, she doesn't pay the insurance, she doesn't contribute a single dollar toward the house. She told the neighbors she manages. Mom called me in March and she said, "Heather, Chelsea had people over again and they parked on the peonies." And I said, "Mom, I'm going to handle it." And Mom said, "I know you will, honey, you always do." And that right there, that's the thing that sits in my chest. My mom believes I'll handle it because I always handle it. I handled the mortgage, I handled the bank, I handled the deed, I handled all of it. And Chelsea lived in the handling like it was hers. Here's what they don't understand, and maybe they never will. That house on Maple Ridge Lane is not just a house. It is the place where my dad proposed to my mom on the front porch. It is the place where I learned to ride a bike in the driveway. It is the place where my mom made cherry pie every 4th of July from a recipe her own mother gave her, the one with the lattice crust that takes an hour to weave, and she does it every single year because that's what her mom did, and that's what her mom's mom did. It is the place where the peonies bloom every June because a woman who stood on a concrete floor for 25 years at a Meijer came home every night and watered them with her own hands. Even when her feet ached, even when she was exhausted, she watered those flowers because they were hers, and the house was hers, and that was the one thing in her life that nobody could take from her. And then the bank almost took it. And I bought it. I didn't buy it as an investment. I didn't buy it to be a landlord. I bought it because when I closed my eyes and imagined my mom opening a notice with a past due stamp and not having anywhere to go, I couldn't breathe. I physically could not breathe. So I signed my name, and I promised the credit union I would pay $1,189 every single month until the house was mine. And I have. Every month. On time. On $17.50 an hour. That's not a mortgage payment, that's a promise written in numbers. And Chelsea painted the kitchen and put her name on the mailbox and told the neighbors she handles things and acted like it was hers because she lived there. But living somewhere and owning somewhere are two different things. And my sister never learned the difference, because she didn't have to, because I was the one paying for the difference. October 15th, 2024, a Tuesday. I worked a 12-hour shift at the hospital. I had been transferred to the overnight hospice rotation, which means I sit with people who are dying while their families are asleep. That's my job. I hold the hands of strangers at pre-AM so they don't leave this world alone. And then I drive home to check on my mom and my sister and the house I bought so my mom wouldn't lose it. I walked in at 7:40 at night. Mom was in the back bedroom watching Jeopardy. Chelsea wasn't home. And on the kitchen counter, the kitchen that Chelsea had painted sage green without my permission, there was a printed piece of paper. A Zillow listing for the house on Maple Ridge Lane, $272,000, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, Cape Cod, peony beds in the front yard, and a contact number at the bottom. Chelsea's phone number. I picked it up and I read it, and then I read it again, and then I opened Zillow on my phone and I typed in the address, and there it was. My house, my kitchen, my peonies, my mom's home, listed on the internet by a woman whose name is not on the deed, not on the mortgage, not on the insurance, not on a single document connected to this property. Listed for sale, like it was hers. The listing had been active for 6 days. 6 days. There had been 2 viewings. 2 different families had walked through my mom's house and looked at the kitchen and the backyard and the peonies and thought about buying it. 6 days my house was on the internet, and I didn't know, because Chelsea didn't tell me. Chelsea told Zillow. Chelsea told the neighbors. Chelsea told the listing agent. Chelsea told everyone except the woman whose name is the only name on the deed. I sat at that kitchen table, the table where I used to do my homework while Mom worked the late shift at Meijer, and I held that piece of paper and I thought about my dad who told me my credit score was my reputation on paper. My dad who died 2 years before I bought this house. And I thought, Chelsea is not just living in my house. Chelsea is trying to erase me from it. She is trying to make this house a story that doesn't include me. And if she succeeds, then the kitchen she painted becomes her kitchen, and the peonies become her peonies, and the deed becomes a piece of paper that never mattered because nobody enforced it. And I am not going to let that happen. Wednesday morning, October 16th. I called into work. I told my supervisor, family emergency. She said, "Heather, you never call in." I said, "I know. That's why this one matters." I made 4 phone calls, in this order, and the order matters because I am a person who does things in order, and I need you to understand that every single step was deliberate. Call 1. The Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. I reported an unauthorized listing. I gave them the address, the Zillow URL, Chelsea's phone number, and my deed. I said, "A woman who does not own this property has listed it for sale. The deed is in my name. She is not on any document related to this property. She has no legal authority to sell it." The woman on the phone said, "Ma'am, we take this very seriously." And I said, "So do I. That's why you're the first call." Call 2. A locksmith. I said, "I need all the locks changed on a house in Cascade, today, and I need a new keypad code." He said, "Do you own the house?" I said, "I do. The deed is in my name. I can show you when you get here." He said, "I'll be there at 2. Call 3. The Kent County Property Tax Office. I verified that all taxes were current and in my name only. They were. Every single year, Heather Marie Gibson, no other name, no co-owner, no question. Call 4. I did not call Chelsea. I did not call Chelsea because I had learned from 3 years of watching her turn my house into her story that Chelsea does not respond to conversations. Chelsea responds to consequences, and I was about to introduce her to some. At 2, the locksmith came. I watched him change every lock. The front door, the back door, the side door to the garage, every single one. And then he installed a keypad and I programmed the code. The code was my dad's birthday, because my dad is the one who told me to protect what's mine, and I was about to. Then I went into Chelsea's room. I didn't throw her things on the lawn. I'm not that person. I'm a home health aide. I handle people's things with care, even when they don't handle mine that way. I put her clothes in boxes. I put her toiletries in a bag. I put her 2 duffel bags by the front door, and on top of the duffel bags, I placed the Zillow listing, printed, with her phone number circled in red. And next to it, I placed a photocopy of the deed, with my name highlighted. Then I sent her 1 text, 1. I said, the house isn't on the market. You are. I changed every lock. I changed every code. I took my house back. And I did it between breakfast and dinner on a Wednesday, because that is what a woman does when she has been patient for 3 years and her patience has been mistaken for permission. Chelsea came home at 6:15. Her key didn't work. She knocked. I opened the door, and she said, I want you to hear the exact words. She said, Heather, why is my key not working? Not what's going on, not can we talk. Why is my key not working? Like the key is the issue and not what she did. I said, Chelsea, I changed the locks. Your things are on the porch. The Zillow listing is flagged as fraud. The state is investigating, and you need to find somewhere else to live, because this house is not yours, and you cannot sell what doesn't belong to you. Chelsea stood on that porch and she yelled. She yelled so loud that Sandy from across the street came outside. And Chelsea turned to Sandy and she said, she changed the locks on our mom's house. And Sandy, who has been on Maple Ridge Lane since 1999 and who knows everything, Sandy said, Chelsea, that's not your mom's house. That's Heather's house. Heather bought it. We all know that. And I want to pause on that for a second. The neighbors knew. The neighbors on Maple Ridge Lane knew that I bought that house. They watched me sign the papers. They watched me move Mom's things back in after the closing. They knew. But Chelsea had been telling them a different story. And Sandy, God, I love Sandy, she didn't buy it. Because Sandy has been watching me pay that mortgage for 3 years. She sees my car in the driveway at 6:45 a.m. when I drop off Mom's groceries before my shift. She sees me on the porch on Saturdays fixing the railing. She sees me. And that's the thing about doing the work. The people who are paying attention know whose hands are on it. Chelsea picked up her boxes. She picked up her duffel bags. She looked at the Zillow listing with her number circled in red. She looked at the deed with my name highlighted. And she said, crying now, not yelling, she said, Chelsea, where am I supposed to go? And I said, Chelsea, I don't know, but you were supposed to be gone in a couple months 2 years ago, so apparently you've had a plan this whole time. She called Mom from the porch. Mom came to the door, and Mom looked at Chelsea and she looked at me, and she said, Chelsea, you put Heather's house on the internet? And Chelsea said, Mom, it's your house. And Mom said, and this is the line that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Mom said, that's Heather's house. She bought it when I couldn't, and you had no right. Chelsea left. She got in her car, and she drove away, and I watched her go, and I did not feel good about it. I want to be honest about that. I did not feel victorious. I felt like a woman who had to put her sister out on a Wednesday night because her sister tried to sell her mother's home on the internet. That's not a win. That's a tragedy that someone else made necessary. Chelsea didn't go quiet. Chelsea has never gone quiet in her life. The Monday after I changed the locks, she called a family meeting. Not at Mom's house, she couldn't get in, but at my Aunt Carol's place in Rockford. And she sat at that table and she told the family that I had kicked her out of Mom's house and changed the locks like I owned the place and treated my own sister like a tenant. My cousin Rachel called me and said, Heather, Chelsea is telling everyone you threw her out of your mom's house. And I said, I threw her out of my house, the one I bought, the one I pay for, the one she listed on Zillow without my name on it. And Rachel went quiet, because Rachel didn't know about the Zillow listing. None of them did. Chelsea told them about the locks. She didn't tell them about the listing. I went to Aunt Carol's house that Sunday. I brought a folder. The deed, the mortgage statements, the property tax receipts, the insurance policy, the Zillow listing with Chelsea's phone number, and a screenshot of the listing that showed it had been active for 6 days, with 2 viewings already scheduled. I set the folder on Aunt Carol's kitchen table, and I said, "Before anyone says another word about what I did or didn't do, open that folder." And Aunt Carol opened it, and she read the deed, and she read the Zillow listing, and she looked at Chelsea, and she said, "Chelsea, you put this house on the market." And Chelsea said, "I was just testing the market." And I said, "Chelsea, you can't test the market with a house that doesn't belong to you. That's not testing. That's fraud that hasn't finished yet." Aunt Carol closed the folder. She looked at Chelsea and she said, "You need to find your own place, and you need to apologize to your sister." And Chelsea said, "I'm not apologizing for living in my mom's house." And I said, "It's not your mom's house, it's my house that I bought so our mom could keep living in hers." And that distinction right there is the whole story. Living in and owning are not the same thing, and Chelsea still doesn't know the difference. Half the family sided with me, half didn't say anything. And that silence, that's what hurts the most. Not the opposition, the silence. The people who know you're right and won't say it because the truth is uncomfortable, and they'd rather have peace than justice. But peace without justice isn't peace. It's just a pause before the next time someone takes what's yours. Here is what happened to Chelsea after she left. Not because I made it happen, but when you live in someone else's house and tell everyone it's yours and then you leave, the story you built on that lie falls apart. First, Chelsea couldn't find an apartment in Cascade. Cascade isn't cheap anymore. A 1-bedroom runs $1,350. Chelsea had been living rent-free for 3 years and had nothing saved because, and this is the part that gets me, she'd been spending her money on other things. The new area rug, the kitchen paint, the Instagram aesthetic. She was building a life in my house that she couldn't afford on her own. And when the house went away, the life went with it. She ended up in a studio apartment in Comstock Park. A studio. After 3 years in a 3-bedroom Cape Cod with a backyard and peony beds. That's the gap between living in someone else's life and building your own. Second, the state investigation. Chelsea received a formal letter, a letter with words on it that said if she ever listed a property she didn't own again, she would face legal action. That letter is a matter of record now. Chelsea Gibson is in a file in the state of Michigan because she tried to sell a house that wasn't hers. And that file doesn't go away. That file is permanent, like a deed. Third, the neighbors. Sandy told Brenda. Brenda told the woman at the end of the blog who walks the golden retriever every morning. The woman with the golden retriever told everyone at the church on the corner. Within 2 weeks, the entire street knew that Chelsea had listed Heather's house on Zillow and called it hers. And Chelsea can never move back to Maple Ridge Lane. Not because I won't allow it, because she burned that bridge herself. She burned it with a Zillow listing and a mailbox nameplate and 3 years of telling people she owned something she didn't. Fourth, Mom. Mom still lives in the house. Mom still waters the peonies. And Mom told me last month, she said, "Heather, I always knew it was your house. I just didn't know Chelsea didn't." And that right there is the most devastating thing anyone has ever said to me about this. My mom always knew. My mom always saw me. And my sister never did. I repainted the kitchen. Pale sage green. The same color Chelsea chose, but this time I chose it. I stood in that kitchen with a paint roller and I looked at those walls and I thought about Mom and I thought about the peonies and I thought about that first night when I closed on this house and sat in the car in the driveway and cried because I had just committed to $1,189 a month for 30 years on $17.50 an hour. And I wasn't sure I could do it, but I knew Mom couldn't lose this place. And I painted those walls myself. every stroke. And when I was done, I stood in the middle of that kitchen and I said out loud, to no one, "This is my house." And it was. I put a new nameplate on the mailbox, 2 names this time. Heather and Linda, that's my mom's name. The 2 women who belong in this house. The woman who bought it and the woman it was bought for. Not Chelsea. Not the sister who treated it like a vacation rental with better curb appeal. Mom and me. Those are the names on the mailbox. I still pay $1,189 a month. I still pay the taxes. I still pay the insurance. I still drive to Maple Ridge Lane before my shift and drop off Mom's groceries and check the water pressure and make sure the peonies are okay. Because that's what owners do. They don't just live in a place, they hold it together, they maintain it, they show up for it. And showing up is the thing Chelsea never understood. She thought living somewhere was enough. It's not. Living somewhere is just being present. Owning somewhere is being responsible, and responsibility is the only proof that you actually belong. My name is on the deed. My name is on the mortgage. My name is on the mailbox, next to Mom's, where it belongs. And if Chelsea ever comes back and asks to stay, I'll say what I should have said the first time. I'll always be your sister, but I won't always be your landlord. So, here is where I land. People ask me, "Heather, don't you feel bad? That's your sister. That's your family." And I say, no. I feel like a woman who bought her mother's house on $17.50 an hour and paid every bill on time for 4 years and came home one Tuesday night to find her sister trying to sell it on the internet. I feel like a home health aide who holds strangers' hands at 3 a.m. so they don't die alone, and came home to find her own sister trying to take away her own mother's home. I feel like a woman whose patience was mistaken for permission and whose love was mistaken for ownership. And I need people to understand something. When you buy a house for your mother, you are not being generous. You are being a daughter. And when your sister moves in and starts treating it like it's hers, that's not family. That's occupation. And occupation ends when the owner shows up with the deed. My sister put my house on Zillow. I put my name back on the mailbox. I put my sister's things on the porch. And I put a new lock on the front door that only opens for the 2 women who actually belong in that house. The house isn't on the market. Chelsea is. And I hope she finds a place of her own someday, a place where her name is on the mailbox because she earned it, not because she wrote it there while someone else was at work. A place where living there and owning there are the same thing. Because until they are, you're just a guest who stopped saying thank you. If you made it to the end of this, thank you. What was the moment in this story that hit you the hardest? Drop it below. I read every single one. Subscribe to Karma Delivered. Every story on this channel is true in the ways that matter. And Karma, she always, always finds her way. Stay solid.